Nearly a fifth of the world's oil passes through one narrow choke point. Global markets can shake in hours, and yet the biggest winner in a conflict is often the country that never fires a shot. Strange, isn't it? While viewers are glued to dramatic images from Washington, Tehran, and the Gulf, another power may be gaining quietly in the background. That is the part almost nobody talks about. We are told to watch the missiles, the threats, the speeches, the explosions. But what if the real story is happening far away from the battlefield? What if this war is not only about who survives, but about who grows stronger while everyone else is distracted, exhausted, and bleeding resources? Stay with me, because this changes everything. From the Strait of Hormuz to Riyadh and Tel Aviv, the world's attention is locked onto a region that has once again become the center of global tension. News channels, analysts, and governments are all focused on the same question: what happens next? Oil routes, military responses, diplomatic warnings, every development is treated as urgent, breaking, and potentially world-changing. Reports from major international outlets like Reuters and BBC highlight how even a small disruption in the Strait of Hormuz can impact nearly 20% of global oil supply, instantly affecting fuel prices, inflation, and economies worldwide. This is not just another regional conflict, it is a pressure point for the entire global system. But while the events themselves are serious, there is another layer to this story that often goes unnoticed: the way this conflict is being consumed. Today, war is no longer experienced only on the battlefield. It is experienced on screens, in real time, through constant updates, push notifications, and emotionally charged headlines. Social media platforms amplify every development, often prioritizing speed over context and drama over depth. Algorithms are designed to keep users engaged, and nothing captures attention more than fear, uncertainty, and conflict. As a result, millions of people around the world are not just informed about the war, they are immersed in it, hour after hour. This creates what can be called a second battlefield, the psychological and informational space. Here, attention becomes the most valuable resource. The more people watch, react, and share, the more the cycle intensifies. According to recent digital behavior studies, prolonged exposure to negative news can increase anxiety levels and reduce focus, making it harder for individuals to think clearly or make productive decisions. In simple terms, while the physical war affects nations, the informational war affects minds. And this brings us to a very important but uncomfortable question. In the middle of all this noise, all these updates, all this urgency, how much of your own time is being consumed? How many hours this week have gone into following every headline, every update, every prediction? And how many of those hours were invested in improving your own life, your work, your health, or your future? This is not about ignoring the world, but about understanding how deeply it is shaping your attention without you even realizing it. While missiles and diplomacy dominate headlines, a quieter but equally powerful battle is being fought inside your mind. From Silicon Valley and San Francisco to tech hubs like Shenzhen, the world's largest platforms are designed to capture and hold your attention. And during times of crisis, they work even harder. Social media algorithms are not neutral. They prioritize content that triggers strong emotional reactions, and nothing spreads faster than fear, conflict, and uncertainty. This is why, during geopolitical tensions, your feed suddenly fills with breaking news, dramatic visuals, expert opinions, and sometimes even misinformation. The goal is simple: keep you watching, scrolling, and reacting. This is what can be called attention economy warfare. It's not fought with weapons, but with information. Every notification, every alert, every trending headline is competing for your mental space. And the more intense the global situation becomes, the more aggressive this competition gets. According to research published in journals like Nature Human Behavior, negative news content significantly increases screen time because it triggers a survival instinct in the brain. People feel the need to stay updated, to stay alert. But at the same time, this constant exposure reduces productivity, weakens decision-making, and increases mental fatigue. Think about it. You check one update, then another, then a video, then a thread, and before you realize it, an hour is gone. Your mind becomes like a battlefield, constant alerts, no clarity, no silence. Instead of focused thinking, there is scattered attention. Instead of calm analysis, there is emotional reaction. Over time, this doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how you work, how you plan, and how you make decisions in your daily life. The challenge is not to disconnect completely, but to regain control. Simple habits can make a powerful difference. For example, setting news windows, perhaps 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, can help you stay informed without being overwhelmed. Another effective step is avoiding doom scrolling before sleep, because what you consume at night directly affects your mental state and sleep quality. By creating small boundaries, you protect your focus in a world that is constantly trying to break it. While the world's attention is fixed on loud conflicts and dramatic headlines, a very different kind of strategy is unfolding quietly in cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and even global trade hubs like Dubai. History shows us a consistent pattern. Some powers rise not through noise, but through patience, discipline, and long-term planning, while others are busy reacting, responding, and sometimes overextending themselves. These quieter players focus on building economies, infrastructure, trade networks, and influence that doesn't always make headlines but shapes the future in powerful ways. There is a clear contrast here. Loud action is visible, immediate, and emotionally gripping. It comes in the form of military movements, political speeches, and constant media coverage. It feels important because it demands attention. But silent growth operates differently. It happens through ports being built, trade agreements being signed, supply chains being secured, and long-term investments being made. These actions rarely trend on social media, yet they create lasting power. According to analysis published by institutions like the World Economic Forum, countries that focus on infrastructure and trade connectivity often gain sustained economic advantage over time, even without direct confrontation. The key insight for 2026 is simple but powerful. The biggest winners are not the loudest players, but the most disciplined ones. While noise creates the illusion of control, discipline creates real control. This is why some nations can expand their influence without firing a single shot, simply by positioning themselves strategically while others are distracted. Now, here's where this becomes personal. The same principle applies to your own life. In a world full of noise, notifications, news updates, endless scrolling, it's easy to feel like being busy means being productive. But real progress often looks quiet. It's the hours spent focused on meaningful work, the consistent habits, the decisions made without distraction. Just like nations, individuals who avoid unnecessary noise and focus on steady growth tend to move ahead over time. So while the world watches loud events unfold, there is a deeper lesson hidden beneath the surface. Whether at the level of global powers or personal productivity, those who master silence, focus, and long-term thinking are often the ones who end up shaping the outcome. Whether tensions rise or calm down, one pattern remains surprisingly consistent, from financial centers like New York to political power hubs like Moscow. The outcome may change, but the effect on everyday people often does not. Let's break this down in simple terms. If the conflict escalates, the media cycle becomes even more intense. More breaking news, more expert debates, more dramatic visuals, more uncertainty. Every hour brings a new update, and people feel pulled to stay constantly informed. According to reporting trends observed by global outlets like BBC and Al Jazeera, spikes in conflict coverage directly lead to increased screen time and higher public anxiety. In this scenario, attention is fully consumed by chaos. Now consider the opposite scenario. If the conflict stabilizes or de-escalates, the noise reduces, but something else begins quietly in the background. Power shifts, economic realignments, trade adjustments, and strategic partnerships start taking shape away from the spotlight. These changes are slower, less dramatic, and often overlooked, but they are just as important, sometimes even more. The problem is, most people don't notice them because they have already been conditioned to focus only on high-intensity moments. And here is the core reality. In both cases, the average person stays distracted. Whether it's chaos or calm, the attention remains externally focused, rarely turning inward. This is where the real cost appears. People spend hours debating global politics online, arguing in comment sections, sharing opinions, reacting emotionally to events they have no direct control over. But at the same time, important areas of their own lives begin to slip. Financial planning gets delayed, health routines are ignored, mental clarity weakens, and long-term goals remain untouched. It's a subtle shift, but a powerful one. The more energy spent on reacting, the less energy available for building. Over time, this creates a gap, not just between countries, but between individuals. Some remain caught in cycles of distraction, while others quietly focus on improving their skills, managing their time, and strengthening their position in life. So regardless of how the global situation unfolds, the deeper question is not just what is happening out there, but what is happening within your own daily habits and priorities. While headlines focus on conflict and political tension, some of the most important changes are happening quietly beneath the surface, especially across key regions like Karachi, Mumbai, and Singapore. These cities are not just locations on a map, they are critical nodes in global trade, energy supply, and financial activity. When something shifts in global geopolitics, it doesn't stay confined to one region. It flows through shipping routes, oil supply chains, and economic systems that eventually reach everyday life. Let's simplify this. Trade routes are like the arteries of the global economy. Ships carrying oil, goods, and raw materials pass through strategic points like the Strait of Hormuz and move toward major ports in Asia. When tensions rise, even slightly, these routes become uncertain. Insurance costs for shipping increase, delays happen, and energy prices begin to fluctuate. According to reporting by international financial analysts and energy agencies, even minor disruptions in oil flow can lead to noticeable changes in fuel prices within days or weeks. And when fuel prices rise, transportation costs go up, which then affects the price of goods, from groceries to household items. This is where the connection becomes personal. You may not be directly involved in global politics, but you feel its impact every time you fill your fuel tank, pay your electricity bill, or notice rising prices in the market. Inflation is not just a number discussed by economists, it's a daily reality shaped by these global shifts. Job markets are also affected. When industries face higher costs or uncertainty, hiring slows down, investments are delayed, and economic growth becomes uneven. The unique insight here is simple but powerful. Global changes affect your daily routine more than headlines suggest. The news often highlights dramatic events, but the real impact shows up quietly in your expenses, your savings, and your financial stability. This is why it's important to stay informed but not overwhelmed. Understanding the basics of what's happening can help you make better decisions, but constantly consuming every update can drain your focus without adding real value. In a world where everything is connected, awareness is important, but balance is essential. From global financial centers like London to multicultural hubs like Toronto, People are living in a time where external uncertainty is becoming the new normal. Markets shift overnight, headlines change by the hour, and geopolitical tension creates a constant sense of unpredictability. But while the outside world becomes more chaotic, the real challenge is what happens inside your own mind. Because when everything around you feels unstable, clarity becomes your most valuable asset. There is a growing body of research in psychology and neuroscience showing that constant exposure to negative news can significantly impact mental performance. Studies highlighted by institutions like the American Psychological Association suggest that chronic news consumption increases anxiety levels, shortens attention span, and reduces the brain's ability to focus deeply. In simple terms, the more you stay plugged into continuous updates, the harder it becomes to concentrate on meaningful work. Your brain remains in a reactive state instead of a productive one. This is where a structured approach becomes essential. Think of it as building a system to protect your focus in a distracted world. A simple but effective method is what can be called the three-step focus framework. The first step is to limit information intake. This doesn't mean ignoring the world, but controlling how much of it you allow into your day. Instead of constant checking, you create boundaries around when and how you consume news. The second step is to schedule deep work time. This means setting aside uninterrupted blocks of time where you focus only on important tasks. No notifications, no scrolling, no distractions. Even 1 or 2 hours of deep focus can produce more results than an entire day of scattered attention. The third step is to replace passive scrolling with active learning. Instead of consuming endless updates that add little value, shift towards content that builds skills, knowledge, or perspective. This small change transforms your time from reactive to intentional. The key idea is simple. When the world becomes louder, your focus must become stronger. Because while you cannot control global events, you can control how you respond to them. And that response shapes your productivity, your decisions, and ultimately, your future. When we talk about winners in 2026, most people immediately think of countries: Berlin shaping European policy, Tokyo driving technological innovation, or other global powers competing for influence. But the definition of a winner is quietly changing. It is no longer just about which nation gains more power, resources, or influence. It is also about individuals, ordinary people, who learn how to navigate a world filled with noise, distraction, and constant uncertainty. Because here is the reality. While global events continue to unfold, the biggest advantage is shifting toward those who can control their attention. In an age where information is endless and interruptions are constant, attention has become one of the most valuable resources a person can have. Research in cognitive science shows that focused attention directly impacts productivity, decision-making, and long-term success. People who can protect their mental space are better at solving problems, planning ahead, and adapting to change. Discipline is the second defining factor. Not the loud, visible kind, but the quiet, consistent discipline that shows up in daily habits. Waking up with intention, working without distraction, making thoughtful decisions instead of reactive ones. These are not dramatic actions, but over time, they create powerful results. While others are pulled in different directions by trends, headlines, and emotional reactions, disciplined individuals move steadily forward. The third element is long-term thinking. In a fast-moving world, it's easy to focus only on immediate events, what's happening today, what's trending right now. But those who step back and think in terms of months and years gain a different perspective. They're less affected by short-term noise and more focused on building something meaningful over time. This mindset allows them to make better financial decisions, career choices, and lifestyle changes. And this brings us to a powerful truth. In a distracted world, focus is power. Not loud power, not visible power, but a quiet kind of strength that allows you to stay clear when everything around you feels chaotic. While nations compete on the global stage, individuals are facing their own invisible competition, the battle for their attention, their discipline, and their future. And those who win this internal battle are often the ones who quietly rise, no matter what is happening in the world around them. As the world keeps shifting, one thing becomes very clear. There will always be noise, there will always be conflict, and there will always be uncertainty. But in the middle of all this, your life is still moving forward. Your time is still passing, and your future is still being shaped by the choices you make every single day. You don't need to control the world, you just need to stop letting it control you. If this video made you pause and think, I want to hear something real from you, not just opinions about the world, but about yourself. Tell me honestly, what is one thing you will change after watching this? And if you want to go deeper into this kind of thinking, watch the previous video on this channel. You'll find it just as eye-opening. We put a lot of research, effort, and thought into bringing you content that actually adds value, not just noise. So if you believe this kind of content matters, support us by subscribing. It's just one click, but it helps us keep going. I'll see you in the next one.